everybody, and today we have Bhavook Chauhaan with us, an advocate from New Delhi. We have Tripti Jha from Yulu Bikes, who's going to be talking about the human resource perspective on today's topic, which is preparing and inclusion of LGBTQIA plus community. We have Ashish from Philips India, who is also representing the LGBTQI community. And we have Arko, who's representing the advertising world and is the executive director at Lowe Lintas. So, thank you, first of all of you for coming in. And I would start with inviting Bhavuk to give a little background from the legal perspective, from the law perspective, and share with all our viewers and with us a little bit about LGBTQIA related laws and its little history. Bhavuk, over to you.
The legal aspect with respect to rules and regulations applicable to LGBT community at workplace in India, we need to have some understanding of the legal framework in terms of its history and geography all over the world. At present, there are about 70 nations wherein same-sex consensual acts are punishable offenses. There are 6 jurisdictions wherein the only punishment is death. There are another 6 jurisdictions wherein possible punishment can be death. Then there are 5 jurisdictions wherein the punishment is up to life imprisonment. There are other 5 jurisdictions wherein punishment can vary anywhere up to 20 years imprisonment or say 14 years imprisonment. Even in India, it was only in 2018 that the offense, earlier Section 377 of the Indian Penal Code prescribed same-sex consensual act as a criminal offense, which was taken off the record, which was basically wiped off the penal code by the Supreme Court only in 2018. So it took almost 7 decades after independence. And even then, all the political parties, except for few, had opposed the judgment of the Supreme Court. When we talk about some legal framework at workplace for the people of the community, we need to keep in mind 2 different aspects. First of all, the community members have to be protected from differential treatment, and they have to be protected from harassment on the grounds of their sexual orientation and on the ground of their gender identity. When we talk about differential treatment or prohibition about discriminatory activities, what are the activities which will fall in this category? It can be subtle, it can be explicit, but this would include termination of employment, pay cut, demotion, stopping or delaying increment, stopping or delaying promotion, issuance of memos, implied or explicit threat of detrimental treatment of the employment, implied or explicit threat about the present or future employment status, interference with work or creating an intimidating or offensive or hostile work environment, humiliating treatment likely to affect health or safety. Now, what are the acts which will fall under the category of harassment? It can be hostile comments, making sexually colored remarks, lewd jokes, ostracizing a person, unwelcome physical contact and advances, offending gestures, showing pornography, demand or request for sexual favors, any other unwelcome physical, verbal, or non-verbal conduct of sexual nature. Now, what are the actions which management should take in such a scenario? First of all, there should be inquiry by a committee. And I'm taking help of the statute which was enacted for protection of women from sexual harassment at workplace. Therein, the statute provides for an inquiry committee And it also provides that the committee should have a member who should have experience in social work or should have some legal knowledge. It should also have a member from some non-governmental organization or association working for the rights of women. In this case, it can be working for rights of the community.
Are you suggesting to the organizations already to have a committee which is supporting LGBTQIA community? Are you saying that we should start thinking on having a committee without even law to be passed on that?
Yes, that can be done. How? First of all, it can be, two things have to be done. Firstly, whenever anyone joins any organization, there should be certain rules of conduct which should be part of the employment contract. Furthermore, even for the existing employees of the organization, new conduct rules can always be introduced as to how one is required to conduct with respect to the people who belong to the community. And whosoever is found to be guilty of misconduct and in violation of the conduct rules, an inquiry can be set up to look into the allegations in this regard, first of all. And based upon the findings of the inquiry, steps can be taken by the committee. And in this regard, what I have proposed is, then when a committee is set up, it shouldn't be like that all the committee members should from the company only, as has been provided in the statute enacted in 2013 for women.
What I understood is that you're suggesting currently to all the organizations to voluntarily take a step to form a committee which can support an inclusive environment for the organization. And we would come back to this thought. Right now, I would like to invite Ashish in sharing the real challenges who's coming from the community. Ashish, please share what has been the journey like since the time you came out and acknowledged your identity in public. What has been the journey like? What has been the challenges like? I would really like to, hear from you.
I usually start from the beginning, like from my birth. I was born on the 1st of December, 1994, and that's the day I knew I was gay. I was ready. I was like, okay, I know I like men. But when people ask me, when did you realize, when did the realization of this sexuality happen? I tell them, I saw Kahuna Pyara in the year 2000. I was 6 years old. I saw Hrithik Roshan and I knew he's my man and I want to marry him. I was convinced that I will marry Hrithik Roshan when I grow up. And I started talking about it in school as well. And I was barely 6, 7 years old, and all these people around me are telling me, why aren't you looking at Katrina Kaif or Priyanka Chopra? Why do you like Hrithik Roshan so much? So I started questioning myself that probably there's something wrong with me. I am screwed up, there's something wrong, and I don't know what to do about it. And I wanted to talk to someone about it, but there was a lot of domestic violence going on at home. So I did not want to add to that. I did not want to tell my parents about it. They already had a lot of problems going on. Because of that, my elder brother went into depression, so I could not talk to him as well. So all I would do was lock myself in the washroom and cry. That was most of my childhood, just crying in the washroom. Whenever I used to go to school, get ready and be prepared to go to school, I was prepared that people will make fun of me, they will call me chakka, jada, and all that will happen. And it was like a daily thing for me. I had prepared, but even then I knew I had to focus on my studies, I had to grow. And no wonder I scored 90% in 10th, 12th, every year I was above 90%. So I ignored all of that, kept my focus on and continued. So when I wanted to move out to Pune for my college, and my mom was kind of not sure if she wanted to continue the marriage because of all that was going on. So then we asked her to get us divorced later. Once that happened, I came out to my brother first. I sent him a text message that, hey, I want to tell you something. It's very important. He's like, yeah, what happened? What are you doing? I'm like, me and mom are going for ice cream, but I need to tell you that I'm gay. He's like, oh, I know. It's okay. Just have fun. Be okay. And I'm like, I've given you the biggest secret of my life. I expect some drama, do something. You cannot just easily just say it's okay. But he already knew. He said he had known him for like 2, 3 years, and he has been very supportive to me, I would say. And then I moved to college, and I did not want to go through all of that I went through in school, in college as well. So for the first few months, I decided not to come out. But I used to go to these private parties, and my roommate in the hostel used to keep asking me, what are these parties you're going to? Why don't you take us as well? And I'm like, no, I can't. And one day I got so fed up. I'm like, why am I lying about something so basic, about a party I'm going to? I'm not doing anything wrong, so let me just tell the truth. So one day I just told my roommate in the hostel that, hey, I'm gay and all these are gay parties I'm going to. And the next day, the whole college knows about it. I asked him that, hey, did you tell the whole college? He's like, no, I told two, three people, and they told a lot of people. But it's cool, yo, no one's, no stress. So, and fortunately, I was very lucky to have such amazing people in college who actually did not make fun of me or do anything about it. And so college went well, and then I came out to my mom, which was quite a challenge. I was scared because she had just gotten out of a divorce. I did not want to give her another heart attack. That okay. So I was sure that I do not want to tell her. But my elder brother and my cousin sister I was also out too. They decided to tell her about my sexuality. And my mom is full on Kiran Kher drama. She cried for 2 months continuously that, oh, I did something wrong. I sent you to Paris. Probably you got it from there. And she went on and on. She would not stop. She went to a psychiatrist to understand about it. God knows what psychiatrist she went to. He's like, so sexuality is a straight line. He's trying to go somewhere that side. You just pull him back so that he becomes straight again. If he crosses this, then he'll be gay for life. And my mom was convinced that she's like, मैं तो convert करके रहूंगी. He has to be straight only. So she would keep telling me that, hey, why don't you try being with a female? You should give it a try at least. And fortunately, my elder brother was there, and he kept sending my mom articles that, mom, please read this, please watch this movie, please read this article. And slowly and steadily, my mom started reading and understanding herself about what sexuality is, and it's not a disease, it's not abnormal or anything. And 2 years later, she's walking the Delhi Pride Parade with me. Everyone's surprised what's happened to her. And also, after I came out to my mom, when she was struggling for the 2 years, in between, I went for this pageant called Mr. Gay India. And I came second there and in the year 2018. And when I came second, my interviews were all in the newspaper, on radio. I did a TV show after that where I had to impress a boy. So I was completely out of the closet. And I thought my mom would have told my dad about my sexuality, but she hadn't. And my dad calls me and he's like, what is this nonsense going on? I'm like, what? He's like, why do you have to tell the whole world about it? Why don't you keep your sexuality to yourself? Like when I was growing up, I did not have anyone to look up to. No one was talking about it at all. Even if I'm an inspiration for one child, I would be more than happy. I do not want any child to go through all of that, questioning themselves that they are wrong. I want everyone to know that they are absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with them. So dad and me never talk about sexuality, but there is still some hesitation. Then I got placed with this IT company. That's when the real fun started. Even then, again, I was like, okay, I've heard stories where people get fired, people are not promoted because of being gay. So again, I was like, okay, let's get back into the closet. So I did not tell anyone for the first few months. And every day I used to go to work, I used to have this in my head that, oh, I better not act feminine. I better not say something. I better not tell them that I went out with a boy. So all that pressure is there in your head, which kind of reduces your productivity as well. And once I came out at work, I was with 10 different girls, and these 10 girls, we were best friends. And one day they booked a conference room, and they're like, Ashish, we have to ask you something. Are you gay? I'm like, that's why you set up this meeting to ask me if I am gay. And I'm like, yes, I am, but how did you find out? They're like, oh, we saw your social media. Because of my Instagram, I was very vocal about it. So they were like, oh, just one cute boy in this office, even he's gay. What do we do now? We wanted to flirt with you, they were telling me. And they're like, don't tell your manager. I think you will have a tough time. So I like, okay, let's not tell the manager. 6 September 2018, when the judgment was about to come out, one day before that, we knew that, okay, the judgment is coming out tomorrow. So a lot of us were planning to go to Delhi, be at the Supreme Court. If it's in our favor, we celebrate it. If it's not, we fight against it. And my manager is like, Ashish, it's not that important today. You have to come to work tomorrow. And like, I get to find out if I'm a criminal in my own country for making love, which is absolutely nothing wrong. And you tell me it's not an important day. It's the most important day of my life. You cannot tell me that it's not important. Not for you, but it's very important for me. And he's like, no, you have to be at work. So unfortunately, I didn't go to work the next day. And the judgment came out in our favor. And all the 10 girls are crying. And I'm happy. I'm like, I'm celebrating that, hey, why are you girls crying? And they're like, we're just happy for you. It's so great. And then my manager comes. He's like, Ashish, congratulations. But why do you have to talk about sexuality at work? And I'm like, you have a picture of your wife on your table itself. You tell me you went out with your wife here. I want to talk about my boyfriend. I want, because just by doing that also you are telling me you're heterosexual and married to a wife. I want the same. I'm not asking for anything extra. Give me a golden chair because I'm gay or something. I just want same treatment. Whatever you are talking about, I want the same right to talk about. He's like, nahi, but tumhara to alag hai na. So then I was like, I need to get out. Let's start applying outside. So that's when the first interview I gave was with Philips. And in my interview itself, I told them that, listen, I'm very gay. I know you're hiring me for a recruiter role, but I want to do a lot of work in the diversity and inclusion sphere as well, because that's my interest as well. And I think that's the reason they hired me. And they were very impressed. They were like, yeah, I think we need someone like that as well, because they didn't have anyone in Philips India who was out and proud and who would tell them what all they can do. Within the first 3-4 months of me joining, we had a small pride parade in the Philips campus with 60-70 people walking, wearing t-shirts and the lanyard, rainbow lanyard. Within a few months, we had a panel discussion where people from the Philips US team and the Netherlands team sharing their perspectives. They wanted to know how it's like in India, how Philips India is also very inclusive now. Within a few months, they changed their sexual harassment policy, because when I joined, it said, oh, if a woman employee faces this, they can do this. And I checked with the diversity head, who told me that as per the Indian government's laws, all the POSH prevention of sexual harassment policy has to be protecting women. All the corporates who are including all the genders are going above the law, and which is absolutely great. So I like, why is Philips not doing? Because I clearly told them I'm not feeling safe at work. What if a man harasses me? What do I do? And instantly it was changed. Everything was happening so quickly. That's when I like, at least I know that I'm respected here in this organization. People want to listen to my story and they actually care for me, not using me as a marketing tool every June to promote pride activities.
Thank you so much for sharing such genuine story with so much of heart in it. It was brilliant storytelling also, besides listening to your story.
Yeah, thank you.
And before we start other discussions, we have two more people to share their perspectives from their world. So
Yeah.
I'd like to invite Tripti, who's an HR expert and also leading HR at Yulu Bikes. Tripti, I would like you to share your perspective as an HR expert individually, and also what your organization feel and would want to do in the coming future related to the community, which is LGBTQIA. So over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Shika, first and foremost for having me, because I'm really glad to be here. And when Ashish was talking, I was amused to listen to the entire conversation and how he came out. And because it's difficult, we don't realize how difficult it is until and unless somebody speaks about it. So I'll put my points first about the Yulu front, and then about myself as an individual. What does Tripti feel about the entire thing? So see, for Yulu, we are 2.5 years old organization. So a lot of things are not yet fixed. So I joined here the month of October 2019, and we have been trying to do a lot of great stuff here. As in totality, we are a very progressive organization. So like Ashish was mentioning, our POSH and everything is gender neutral. Now you also know. So yeah, so we just don't want to protect our women, but our male, female, everybody is very important to us as an organization. So we are at a state where we are gender neutral. Where we would want to go is that we would want to hire diverse. Now, having said that, a lot of organizations are diverse, but they are not inclusive. So the ultimate goal where we would want to reach is to be very inclusive. So maybe I do not have a timeline as of now for Yulu's perspective. Maybe 1.5 years or 2 years down the line, I would want to have people, I would want to have a committee like Bhavook was telling, which takes care of my LGBT plus community. But as of now, we are very progressive. We want to do everything for human rights. We want to do everything that employee would want to be at their workplace. So that's where we are today.
Sure.
When I speak about Tripti, so I know what happens in HR world. So like every other individual, like every other human being, we all are surrounded by bias. So as biased we are when we are hiring an individual whose wife also works, and then we try to fit in that, all right, is the person going to move or is the person not going to move because his partner or his wife has a job? So the same bias comes in when we think of hiring a LGBT or a third gender. So what I would want to tell my community is, please try and keep your biases aside. When you are thinking of the community, when you would want to work for them, so your personal biases should be at the side and you should treat them as equals. Like nobody asks a heterosexual if they are heterosexual, right? So it shouldn't matter what my sexuality is. I mean, for you, I'm just an individual with certain skill set. If my skill set are good to go for a particular role, that's about it. I mean, it shouldn't go beyond it at all. So that's what I feel as an individual. So Shika, I would also like to ask you, you do a lot of bias training and all that. What is your suggestion for people like us, for HR community? How should we deal with it? What should be our role in the entire thing?
Good question, Tripti. What I would like to say over here is that bias, like you said, you're suggesting that keep the biases away.
Yeah.
Keeping the biases away is an outcome. But before that, bias needs training to be kept away. It needs a proper training channel. If I have anger issues, I will have to be mindful to be able to control my anger. Similarly, I have bias issues, then I will have to be mindful. I first need to be able to spot my biases, to be able to understand that I am impacting somebody else's emotions, maybe impacting their human rights, maybe impacting them so deeply and personally that I'm actually impacting them daily on their daily basic lifestyle. So for that, bias cannot be kept aside. Just I'm thinking that, oh, I need to, this is a bias and I just need to keep this aside. I can't do that. It is a process of training that organizations must understand that is required at a on a very regular basis. And it needs a lot of acceptance from the leadership. If the leadership buy-in is not there for training on the biases for not just the leaders in the organization or the managers in the organization, but overall bias in the organization as complete workforce, it is impossible for a workplace to be inclusive, not just for LGBTQIA community, but also for having an inclusive environment for women or for men for that matter. So every individual being in an organization will have their own kind of biases, and training and regular training, sensitization and awareness are the only solutions to deal with it. I hope I shared my answer to you, Tripti.
Yes, you did. So taking cue from that, Shika, I think the way we are serious about POSH, as in prevention of sexual harassment for women at workplace, and now people go towards neutrality, but I mean, the organizations will have to be that sensitive for the cause, and only then maybe we'll be at a better place.
I will take the clue from there, and actually I would like Arko to come in. Arko comes from an advertising world, and Arko has been in this world from really long time now. Arko, I request you to give your perspective, considering any new company that is setting up, and Yulu being one new startup, and the entire established organizations which are Fortune 500 to the other big organizations. So from that genre to the startup genre, advertising plays a very big role, whether it's advertising directly from the external communication point of view or the internal communication within your workforce or the other stakeholders. What do you have to say that organizations should be doing in the coming time that they can create hygiene for LGBTQI community and make their organization, make them ready, be prepared before hiring? What do you have to say about it?
Thank you, Shika, for having me. And it's so great. Before I start, I just know that there are lots of struggles each and every individual on this planet goes through, and it takes a lot to fight over it. Even when you become a winner, even when you survive, eventually many times you're left broken. I see Ashish here. I just want to laud his story. And I'm so proud to be a part of this group here. And because he's smiling. Yes, he's a charming boy. No questions. Yes, the women must be feeling sad. The only charming boy went last. But yes, super, super stuff, man. Yours is a story that needs to be told to people. In fact, the reason I mention this, it is people like Ashish who need to be taken and promoted within the corporate culture. There is a particular imagery, and I'm going to be very practical and straightforward as to what, because I come from the field where we dissect common people's perception. तो वो जो बोल रहा था कि छक्का बोल रहे हैं, ये बोल रहे हैं, those are words that come up. In fact, there are many times that when I do a commercial and it goes into research and a man is being not living up to the typical masculine standards, the research people, the crowd sitting in small town Chhattisgarh, down south, everywhere, by the way, it's pan-India. It's across in the world, but they turn around that he's being a bit gay. Being a bit gay is a war that we are fighting, even when a man is listening to his wife or, is not reacting, is not fighting back.
Bias.
Other biases. So I feel we need people to look up to. This country believes in aspiration. It needs people to look up to. Till now, the perception of the whole LGBTQIA community is, one, it is a difficult word. Kuch to LGBT bolte hain, right? That's how they talk. And when you try to explain, so their perception is that there are only two kind of people that they have confronted who represent this community, which is, one is the transgenders, because they meet them. And the second is the effeminate male. The effeminate male. These are the two representations that are clouding the whole imagery of LGBTQIA. What we need to do is, whether it is a Fortune 500 company, whether it is a startup, whether it is part of that community, or whether it's that in-core group that Bhavook is talking about, right? People like Ashish, people like, I don't have other people who are doing their workplace there's nothing about their personal life and their professional life. You meet them in their professional life, they're just as adequate, just as output driven, just as angry, just as hungry for work, just as a bigger go-getter out there. And you introduce them to a smaller core groups. This is first thing first for HR to take care of their biases. That output zyada zaruri hai. And eventually at the end, when you come to know, he's gay, you have a lesser harsh bias coming towards, because you've already tick box things. So probably for starters, it works beautiful. And Shikha, you come from a world where you get down to meeting these, through whether it's IC, internal communication, or the people. When you go there, it is such a big surprise that the person who is actually doing their job better than them, knowing their sensibilities better than them, the human interactions better than them, speak to them, he's gay. Oh, so it's not a taboo. It's not someone that you need to pick up a stone and throw at, or need to be sidelined from the society, right? Because it's visually difficult to digest, right? So people like Ashish and multiple people need to be part of that conversation, even at an HR level. And HR needs to, we find these speakers who come from within the marketing world and go-getters, and from, the product guy, other in the IT sector, they come and inspire people. People watch them, people talk about them, they want to be like them. We need more representatives from LGBTQA community to do that. One. Second thing, getting back, I hope I answered what you were.
Yeah, so internal communication, yes, you definitely answered. And I would like you to also share a little bit perspective from the brand standpoint, where big brands always advertise for their consumers.
Yes.
So from the external communication point of view, from the advertising world, what is your perception on that aspect?
Yes. So as you mentioned, it's been about 15 years that I've been in this line, right? 15 years, I can say that from advertising, we went to the word called communicating. Now the word that we are actually fiddling with most of the time is conversation. A conversation is a two-way process. The world, with the internet world rising, right? We can hear what the world is saying, seeing our communication. And I am not someone who will make an ad for myself. I'm certainly representing an organization, different organizations. I worked on Google, I worked on OLX, I am still working on Google, I work on Z, there are lots of brands that do that. And let me tell you, everybody at the moment is picking up their act. They want to talk about inclusivity. Somehow the 2018 result has given people something new to talk about, where they want to come across as an inclusive company. Now, there are two ways of approaching it. The first way, and that's my personal opinion, is how can we communicate, or rather have a conversation with the generation that is growing up at the moment. The only way you will be able to see this particular generation and our seniors, the people who are with us, there are biases. You can keep fighting those biases. That's a process. But how do we get the next generation to be much more aware and much more inclusive? The kids, the children, right? They need to be, spoken to. They need to understand. Parents have to play a very integral role. School systems have to play a very integral role. The teasing starts at school. I just feel that, there is something called the talk. There is a talk that every individual gets from either parents or teachers. The brands need to jump into that talk. The way we are being able to, or people are ready to talk about the acceptance of the Black community abroad, right? Maybe there are a few nuggets to pick up from there as a learning, right? And place them within the lives of our kids. One of the major ways is through social conversation that we can have through advertising.
On this, what I really want to ask again, Ashish. Ashish, what do you have to say that when organizations are setting up hygiene for inviting LGBTQI, what is that one point right now coming to your mind that you would like to share with the organizations who are hearing this, that they should keep in mind?
Everyone should just do their research. It's not very difficult. Just Google it up. You will find the basics there. Just do your own bit to sensitize your own people first, and then go ahead. Be sensitive about all the struggles also the person has faced. Because a lot of trans people I've had a word with, they keep telling me that it's so uncomfortable when people ask me questions like, have you had your surgery? And exactly why is a trans person being asked about their reproductive organs when we don't ask any heterosexual about the reproductive organs? Why is this conversation being had at the workplace? Is it okay if I ask my manager about his reproductive organs? Obviously not. So why ask a trans person about that? So just basic sensitivity is required, and get in touch with us. I would be more than ready to come to your organization, tell what is okay, what is not okay to ask, get people from the trans community as well to your organization. If you want to hire them, we are more than happy. That'll be amazing.
So the first thing that you're suggesting to all the organizations is, before even hiring, one needs to sensitize and raise empathy amongst the workforce to invite LGBTQI and give them that kind of comfort before even they come. Yeah. That is the kind of environment that you're suggesting to the organizations, right?
Correct.
On this part, what I would like to ask Bhavuk is that, Bhavuk, while we have Ashish's point of view, from the legal standpoint, it will take many, many years for another law to be passed. Like you suggested that companies can do voluntarily committee setup. What is that first thing that organization must keep in mind if at all they even start thinking of setting up the committee? What's your one point to them?
The first thing which organizations need to do is to basically make people aware about the issues. It's only when people are sensitive towards these issues that they would also have acceptance to bring in these changes within themselves and the organization. Rules, legalities are always secondary. There are two ways of moving ahead. One is we enforce conduct by modifying, by bringing in rules. Another way of doing it is there is awareness There's social awareness. People know what ought to be done, what shouldn't be done. And thereafter, rules are enacted, which are followed in letter and spirit. So that's my view on it.
From the HR perspective, Tripti, what do you have to say to all your fellow HRs that they should be keeping in mind, like Ashish and Bhavook have shared their aspect, and I will go to Arko after this, but what's your HR perspective to this?
I'm very glad that a lot of organizations are now talking about it and changing their policies and practices on this. So like for Tatas, I mean, they are an institution in itself. And I was so happy to see few of the practices and policies that they have. Like Ashish mentioned that, yeah, you should not be asking a transgender if they have gone to a surgery or not. While that's one thing to do. The other thing is Tata Steel, they're supporting the people. If somebody, so they have equal rights for partners, be it leave, be it childcare leave, be it emergency fund, be it anything. So they have also included this aspect into their policy, where if somebody would want to have the reassignment of the gender thing, they can go and they can avail it through company's side. So that's a great kind of addition to the policy, the existing policy that an organization can come up with. So, and I was seeing, so like now Ashish and I are connected on LinkedIn. So when he likes something, so I also get to see what is happening in the world. So I could actually see that Calvin Klein, they have put in a transgender model on their huge board. And I was so impressed, I cannot tell you. So things are changing. The HR world is picking up. Organizations are picking up, and I mean, it's time. It's time that all of us, all of the HR community, we should all come forward and learn from each other the best practices that are happening. Now, Wells Fargo has a big rainbow-colored flag, and I mean, it's visually appealing when you see, because you understand that, all right, this organization is someone who is keeping all their biases aside. So, you know, until and unless we start appreciating and encouraging organizations who are towards free from biases or who are inclusive, only then the rest of the organizations will follow the suit. Because it's like the hygiene, that only if when you are this, people are attracted to you, employees will be happy working for you, and like the organizations won't lose Ashish because they will be happily doing things and not using him as prop in the month of June. So that's what it is. Yeah.
I have a tough question coming for you, Tripti, and you may want to pass it on if it's too tough. But
Let me try.
I have a very tough question for you. For HRs.
Yeah.
HRs may truly want to include LGBTQI community. How do HRs fight the management whose mindset is absolutely not aligned to include LGBTQI community, considering the generation gap and the biases that they come with? They do not understand or are not open to even have a dialogue on this topic, while HR may be completely progressive and would have been coming from a very Ivy League school or the IIMs. HR doesn't have the real power in that particular moment. In that particular moment, what do you suggest the HR to take an affirmative stand to really prove the mettle that HR stands with this particular cause for the real human rights? I want you to give me an answer if you're ready to address this tough question.
Sure. So Shikha, this won't be the only thing which management doesn't want to do. And I mean, HR needs to pester and all. There are so many things in an HR's life, which every time it's like, and you know, like we are very heat. So to put it across. So first no is never a final no. So to HR community, what I would suggest is, if you believe in it, and you will have to believe in it because this is the right thing to do. So keep pestering, keep giving examples to your organization, to your management, that why is it required? Then why do they go in for posh? Only because is there a law around it, or do you really want to go ahead with it? So HR need to be very careful in putting across examples to show them that how NPS increases, what is the value that is going to come if an organization goes in for it. Like everything is data driven. Arko was telling that, yeah, so brands come up with this. This is the talked about thing right now. So even if the management is stubborn, hell-bent, and they don't want to, like, in their mental mind, they are wired that they are against this. If they see value in it, and if they see that their brand's value is increasing because they are into it, the work is done. HR do not have to change the mindset of the founders or the management. They just have to show the value of inculcating this thing to the organization, and I think the work will be done. And this is not the only thing. Let me tell you, Shika, there are a lot of issues which we deal across every day. So yeah, that's it.
Arko, what Tripti is suggesting is an internal advertising that the HR would be doing to the management. What do you have to say on that aspect from the internal advertisement that she'll be designing to convince the leadership?
No, so I'll tell you just one thing, and you're right. It's a very tough question that you've asked her, right? Because not just to her, there are different, even if there is somebody who is heading a particular vertical, right? And he's not part of the management category, not one of the big boys, the boy band group that is sitting up there. And he wants to be a little more inclusive and wants to, hire someone who, because of their output, has impressed someone. He or she will have to undergo the same, right? Even though that person might have more reach within the big boys club. There is a big boys club, right? So called, right? The only thing is business. If you have to see a business perspective, and I completely agree with Tripti here, value is what comes to the table. When the conversation changes, there's a whole world that I am coming from where I stand, but there is a competitor. There's more competition. And suddenly that competitor is getting a little bit of good word for himself, right? From whether it's a body that is recognizing them, it's probably a Hewitt kind of a place, that one of the best places to work for, or something of that sort. When there is lauding going on, the individual feels that dhanda to ho raha hai, but maybe going forth I need to walk into this brigade. The very reason 10 years ago, an example, 10 years ago, I don't know how many of you were ever aware of Mother's Day. 10 years now, 2020, there is a plethora of Mother's Day ads, and all of them look similar, and you don't know what to do because all of them are under pressure to catch the date. It's called topicality. If you go out there, I've written a huge an article on topicality about 2-3 years back, that how that has become the next big thing that everybody needs to catch up on. The very reason why Pride Month, and it's a month, it's not a day, Pride Month, because it's celebrated abroad, and India, as we have it, has this thing about being appreciated and following in suit. So I can say that it will take time. It will take time. What we as advertisers, as media people, as HR people, as lawyers, as brand books, as conversation, as anybody can help become a catalyst and speed it up. That's all that we can do at the moment, right? Till the time we celebrate that, तो धंधा है, value दिखेगा कि यार, if I have 30% or a certain percentage of my task force as this, I get accredited somewhere. People talk about me. The media lauds me. Or if he sees somebody getting that, that person will also fall in line.
On what Arko is saying, I would like to share one data with all of you from the World Bank report, which says that India's loss in GDP due to homophobia was 32 billion, or 1.7% of country's GDP. So this data alone suggests that it is time for all the HRs to show the value that this community that is not yet accepted, who's very much part of us, the moment is accepted, is not just the goodness of the social construct of a country, but also the economic construct for the countries. What is that one message? And I would like to start with you, considering we are today talking and opening the dialogue for our community of LGBTQIA. So please share that one last message that you would like to share.
My last message would be that just be nice people. Just be kind. We are not the whole LGBT community is not asking for special rights or reservations or anything extra. We just want everything to be normal. We want it to be treated equally, just like you treat any other person. No extra rights, no special rights, just equally. No, we just don't want to be discriminated or made fun of. That's all, and it's not too much. It's not hard to be a nice person. I am telling you that it's very easy. All we are asking for is not to make fun of us, not make derogatory comments, just appreciate it. Even if you don't understand what LGBT stands for, don't mock it. It's okay if you don't understand it, just ignore it. Probably not talk about it at all. If you really want to understand it, I would be more than happy to educate, but don't mock it. Don't make fun of it, but have an open mind, learn about it, study about it.
Sure.
I think that
Thank
would
you,
be my
Ashish.
message.
Over to you, Tripti. Your one last message.
My only thing would be HRs can try and be inclusive and just keep your biases aside and treat them as equal, humans as humans. That's it.
Great, great. Bhavuk, your one last message.
What we need is compassion. Compassion is what makes us a better human being. We should be compassionate, irrespective of someone's sexual orientation, their gender identity. We should be just compassionate about everything and everyone.
Thanks. Over to you, Arko, before I end it with my last message.
I can only say that awareness, don't be afraid of awareness. Awareness empowers. Awareness come from everywhere. Curiosity is there. Many a times when curiosity is not answered, it converts into hatred. Don't let that happen. Let the awareness reach you. Let happiness make a better man of you. That's all.
My last message to everyone who's hearing this is that awareness is a social responsibility. It is a business responsibility. And it's high time that it's looked at as the core of your business and included as your business strategy to go further. So take it more seriously and have the real relevance of awareness in your organization from now on. Thank you so much for everyone to be here, Arko, Ashish, Tripti, and Bhavuk. Bye to everybody, and thanks once again.